Howdy, folks.
Many hellos to you all. Well, you're looking at a manky old plaid easy chair, with me doing a horrendous, phony British accent, which no doubt caused more humorless Brits from the other side of the pond to relate me, MultimediaJay, to either Lloyd Grossman or something worse. This can all only mean one thing, that it's time to do another Ashens parody stroke pastiche about a Famiclone. Now, last go-around, the last time I busted out a phony British accent, I was doing a parody of Ashens, talking about the Retro Duo. The first Famiclone I ever picked up. This was version 2 of the console, back in 2008. Nice little piece of hardware, a few glitches and incompatibility issues here and there, used less power than original Super Nintendo, played Nintendo games and Super Nintendo games. Had an absolutely rubbish controller, though, with a D-pad about as stiff as a really harsh drink, and you had to mod the thing in order to get the buttons to line up correctly, so you would have your B and A buttons that actually be convex, while the X and Y buttons up top were concave. But many years have passed since that video that got made fun of so much because I'm so horrible at impersonating the British accent. Now, years and years later, with several years of watching a little too much Top Gear under my belt, I hope I don't sound too much like Jeremy Clarkson, so I don't want the Stig showing up in a big green Ferrari. It is time to replace the Retro Duo with another device. Some say that devices like this should not exist, that they're a horrendous excuse to not track down the original consoles they're designed to replace. Others say it's a great way to save space and not have to hook up as many old consoles to your telly. All we know is, it's not called the Stig, it's called the Super Retro Trio. This right here is the main competition, as far as I know, to the Retron 5 making lots and lots of headlines lately. Although this is supposed to be the Silver and Black edition, they kinda had a bit of a problem, apparently, with the imagery, which makes it look like I got a green one. And of course, little advertisement for the Super Retro Advance. Play original GBA games with the Super Retro Advance adapter, sold separately. Unfortunately, last time around I mentioned that I was getting one of these Super Retro Advances, but I forgot that at the last minute I decided not to spend the money. Taking a quick look at the box, it's for Genesis, Super Nintendo, and the Nintendo Entertainment System. 3-in-1 slots, Genesis Region Switch, 6 controller ports, and 2 controllers included, which hopefully are a lot better than the rubbish that came with the Retro Duo. As you can see, for the people that are really stupid, they have NES, SNES, and Genesis written on the cartridge ports. Around the side with the box. Last time, this language was absolutely atrocious. Let's see who we've got here now, shall we? Get a nostalgic classic gaming fix with the Super Retro Trio by Retrobit. Play classic NES, SNES, and Genesis games directly from the original cartridges onto the SR3. The modern design of this 3-in-1 home system allows for less clutter and more gaming. It is equipped with 3 cartridge slots, 6 controller ports, compatible with original and third-party controllers, which is one of the main reasons why I got this pile of rubbish. 2 controllers, AV cable, S-video connection, and AC adapter. The SR3 gives every old-school gamer a new reason to get their game on. 3 cartridge slots compatible with original NES, SNES, Genesis games, NTSC, PF, NJ, PA, Region Switch, 6 controller ports compatible with original and third-party controllers, 2 controllers included. Rumor has it these were a lot better than the rubbish that came with the Retro Duo. S-video connection and AC adapter. Now, having already cut the plastic on the edges before filming, so I wouldn't have to go running around for my box cutter, let's see if our fine friends at Retrobit have defeated the purpose of me already cutting the plastic off camera. Let's get this thing open here. Now, if we remember how the Retro Duo went when I got it all those years ago, point the camera a little bit southward. These consoles are often locked in their plastic like Fort Knox. Out it all comes. And say goodbye to the box. Goodbye, box. We have a manual here, Super Retro Trio instruction manual with notably better English this time. Super Retro, Retrobit, and Retro Duo are registered trademarks of Cool Brands LLC, not endorsed, manufactured, or supported by Nintendo of America, USA. Super Retro Trio console instructions manual. We have all this here. Stationary images can burn into some tellies. Looks like the instruction book may have been printed on a lousy inkjet, at least the master version before it was published. How to run it. We're not going to do this. When all else fails, read the directions. What have we got, and how much is it locked in here? Power adapter. Oh no, take that out right there. Yet another block, just like its predecessor. What have we got here for power outputs this time? If it will ever focus. Come on, you know you can do it. 5 volts, 1 amp. Same 5 volt power adapter as its predecessor. Interesting. This is the silver and black edition, not the black and red edition that we often see in so many videos. I wouldn't want something that garish in my gaming setup when everything else is two-tone or black. Let's look at the unit itself. Out of the plastic it comes, and kind of pointless really. It's a piece of plastic. Build quality-wise, compared to the Retro Duo, it's a little bit heavier, it feels a little more solid than its predecessor, especially around the cartridge ports, which are an issue, of course. With the next, what was it? The Retron 5 has a bit of a problem with the plastic around where you put these things in. Unfortunately, there is no cover inside, as you can see. Circuit boards are us. Make sure you never spill your drink onto one of these things. Taking a look at the overly shiny front, you have a little front panel that opens up to all your controller ports, and little switches to pick between the various controller setups. Super Nintendo, NES, and Sega Genesis, or Mega Drive if you're from the part of the pond that's probably, the side of the pond that's probably going to make fun of me for this. NTSC, PE, NJ, NJ, PA. NTSC, PAL Europe, New Jersey and Pennsylvania. No, just kidding. Probably stands for NTSC Japan and PAL Australia. And close it up, we got our reset button and a slider switch, which probably means it's not a good idea to keep a lot of games plugged in at the same time. Because what if you do this? You may very momentarily turn your Genesis part on and off and your SNES part on and off. That is the unit. Now, let us see if it has improved its controllers any. Rumor has it that these are a lot better than the rubbish that shipped with the Retro Duo. So let's see what we've got here. Oh, underneath, little bonus, stereo AV, stereo composite, and stereo audio video, and of course, S-video. So you still need to have a TV with these jacks still on it in order to hook this thing up, as opposed to the HDMI on the Retron 5. Nice to see, though, that the controllers are not locked in here like they're at Fort Knox or something. Right, feel the power. See what these things feel like. The rumors were true. These controllers are incredible compared to the rubbish that shipped with the Retro Duo. A lot more solid, far superior plastic, and the D-pad. The D-pad feels like a proper Super Nintendo controller. Not this shiny blue, impossible to move rubbish from earlier. The buttons are all set up correctly. Two-tone is pretty nice. Probably modeled after the Retrobit controller that goes into the USB on your computer. Of course, it goes to an Atari Stroke Genesis type plug, which goes into the front right here, which is sure to mess with your head a bit, because here we are with a Super Nintendo style controller with a Genesis style plug. Get the other one out. Now, I bought this thing to play with the original hardware, but these controllers feel sleek enough. I might just play with these. Speaking of controllers, if you fancy these controllers with the Super Retro Trio, consider getting a Genesis cord extender. The cord length leaves a little to be desired. But wait! There's more! And I'm not talking about the instruction manual off to the side. Here with the cable from the Retro Duo. Here's the cable from the Super Retro Trio. They've upgraded to gold-plated connectors. We like that! Alright, time to stop putting it off and go play this bastard! Super Baseball Simulator 1000 with the Retro Trio controller. How does it feel compared to a Super Nintendo controller? Little clickier, but very, very similar. It could pass as the real thing. Although the Super Nintendo controller still feels a lot more solid, the Retro Trio controller, if I can stop mixing them up, does do the trick quite nicely. With the Super Nintendo controller, feels the same, except a little bit more solid. One thing worth noting, when you switch your controller on this thing, it does hit a couple of buttons when you flip the switch, so make sure you're not in anything important in the game if you feel the need to change from the Super Retro Trio controller to the original platform. And here we are with the NES output. The sound is all nice. Unfortunately, because I'm using S-Video, and Nintendo Entertainment System came out before S-Video, this does not work very well. It creates all these checkerboard patterns, which can be remedied by switching back to the composites. Much cleaner image. Unfortunately, the Nintendo controller I purchased for this very purpose turned out to be a dud, so I'm able to play this not with the Retro Trio controller, but with a 6-button Genesis controller, which interestingly enough maps out to B being A and A being B. Rather interesting example of Genesis does what Nintendo don't. One last thing worth noting is the pin connectors, which don't have much of a death grip on the games, unlike other Famiclones. The games come out and they go back in. Same thing with Super Nintendo. Goes in, somewhat comes right out. Just takes a little bit of force, but not much more than was needed on the original consoles. Don't like the wobbly games though one bit. Anywho. So all things considered, the Super Retro Trio is definitely worth picking up if you're not going to get a Retron 5. You get to play your games from back in the day, with your controllers from back in the day, which are right next to each other all in the front, and not scattered all around the unit, like some other certain Famiclones that are out there these days. It also has the Super Retro Advance adapter, which can go in here, right up top, and is definitely a worthy successor to the Retro Duo. While this device may not share all the features of the Retron 5, it also doesn't share the price tag, which may make it worth picking up for people that don't want to mess with that Android emulation box thingy, whatever you want to call it. At the end of the day, if you're not getting a Retron 5, one of these is most certainly worth picking up. It is definitely worth it. Perfectly capable machine. Just don't buy your controllers from random people on the internet named Harry.
Rubbish!